This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I'm catching up with a gentleman I haven't seen in quite some time, some 7 or 8 years. I'm speaking with Robert Gilvesy, who's joining us all the way from Hungary. How are you today, sir?
I'm pretty good, actually. Beautiful sunny day, and unlike in Canada, it's about 15 degrees here.
Oh, bloody hell. Okay, that's nice. So
And
the last year has been quite a tumultuous one for everyone all over the world. How have the last 12 months been for you? Being positioned in Hungary, what were the first impacts of the pandemic upon your area?
well, I think like many other people, it was a basic lack of knowledge of what to do and where to turn next. I think there was a basic like everyone just froze for a little while here,
Yes,
just like everywhere else thing, or what's gonna happen, and then you realize it's gonna stick around. So there was no physical or sickness initially. And so it was more about what do we do with our business because all the restaurants were closing and
of
and and,
course.
and hospitality and Hungary's tourism has gone up tremendously in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years, particularly the Budapest region, and that means
Yeah.
for us restaurants and hotels. And so there was a big question, and our wine merchant, basically shut down their gastronomy services from one day
Yes.
to the next. And lucky we had been working on a web shop. We had not even opened, and so we quickly finished that up and started to kind of look for different avenues to reach our the people who would like our wines. And so that did get off, and so there's a bit of panic, I guess, and then our wine merchant also opened up their online sales quite a bit more, and they just zoomed up with their online sale. They can't say that we zoomed up. We don't have the reach they have, but in terms of the client base, but they zoomed up with their online sales, and that kind of helped out.
Now, excuse my ignorance here, but were your borders closed?
Well, on and off. It depends on how you look at it. I mean, there were times when um, you could go across. How was it at the beginning? Yeah, there were times it was closed when there's a lot of this uncertainty at the
Yes.
beginning, and then they opened up with limited access. And then if you had a job on the other side of the border, or if you had a reason to go across, you could go across. Then there's the PCR testing that's been going on lately, where
Right.
you can cross if you have PCR tests. The funny thing is that if you do have bona fide work, it seems to be quite easy to cross the
I
borders
see.
now.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, as for cellar door sales, you were saying that your domestic cellar door sales were really quite good.
Yeah, I mean, we had started with a small little Vinoteca a couple of years ago,
Yes.
but relative to the previous year, it tripled last year.
Wow.
So the city's emptied basically in the summertime, and everyone went to the countryside. So there was quite a countryside tourism.
And how did the pandemic affect the day-to-day workings in the winery and the vineyards?
Well, that's kind of funny because I think people in the countryside took the pandemic in stride. I think. I mean, the work went on, particularly in the vineyards, without much difference. The kind of hand punching, shake, and this kind of stuff, and the hand washing and things did increase significantly, but somehow there was no huge differences in terms of day-to-day life and how we worked in the vineyards. In terms of tastings and tasting room, of course, yes, we had the hand sanitizers and the masks, but we were able to stay open,
Right.
and
Right.
there was no big. Obviously, the people we met were not overly concerned about it. I mean, we didn't meet the ones that were concerned too much.
Yes. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
They come out, and so I can say that in the countryside we were quite a bit less affected than the cities where there was
Of course.
more stringent. restrictions.
So I was reading the beginning of this month. Your country, Hungary, was the first in Europe to approve the Russian Sputnik 5 vaccine. How happy have you been with your government's mitigation and management of the pandemic thus far?
I think that we can all say that we have our issues with all our governments around the
Yeah.
world, and there's no shortage of that here either. But when I hear of the difficulties in handling the pandemic elsewhere in the world, I don't think we have any more. I would
Right.
say there may be different concerns, and I think the biggest one is there's a lack of feeling that we have proper information coming towards us, and in terms of Sputnik 5, and now I think they've also going to approve the Chinese.
All right. Okay.
I mean, of course, we from a I don't know Western standpoint, we're concerned about these things. I don't really know what we're going to do yet, whether or not we're going to feel comfortable about that. But a lot of Hungarians, for instance, say that, well, you know, in the old system before the changes in the West, all their vaccines were coming from Russia. So
Yes, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so you know they don't have as much of an issue with this. I don't know if they got any vaccines from China, but I mean, um, I have mixed feelings about it. So some of it seems to be being pushed upon people, and the influences that they're trying to make on people to make decisions about vaccines are a bit like arm twisting, I think.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I think that's probably happening elsewhere as well.
Yeah.
But that's the idea that I get. You know, like, oh, well, if you don't get vaccinated, well, then you can't do this or you can't do that, and you know, type of thing.
I think that's becoming
Motivating.
a,
They're motivating you.
yes, yeah, that is becoming a kind of reality for everyone across the globe right now. Now,
Right.
you'll never forget the 2020 vintage because it was during pandemic, but how were those grapes and how are the wines looking?
2020 has worked out fairly well. I mean, uh, during the summer, we had a nice summer with actually quite a bit of rainfall.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, in the end of July and August, it gets very dry and hot. And in the last few years, ripening has happened so early that, in fact, I think it was 18 we harvested the 22nd of August, already our first harvest, which was really, really unusual. But it was kind of pushed back to a more normal harvest date in 2020. And we were a little concerned that because we didn't have the same heat units, and if we got a heavy rainfall during the September, we would be in trouble in terms of ripening. But it turned out that it stopped raining beginning of September,
Mm-hmm.
and we had a gorgeous September. So ripening was beautiful, and we had some really nice harvests, I must say. So it's one of our better vintages in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years. So we're looking forward to putting some more nice wines on the table.
Excellent, excellent. And you told me earlier that you came down with COVID yourself, and you had one of the symptoms that I absolutely dread. So you lost your sense of taste and smell. That must have been a little bit worrying.
It was very, very worrying, particularly when you start Googling it and you're seeing that some people have lingering effects for months
Yeah.
and months. And I was going, what would I do without my taste and smell?
And here's a question for you. Did it happen all of a sudden? Were you suddenly just aware that you could not taste and could not smell?
It was kind of like, yeah, I mean, it was mostly in the smell, of course, where I was starting not to smell foods, you know, when I was
Right.
cooking, but I like cooking, and then I was starting to, and then tasting wines. I'm going, oh my, what's this wine? Where is it? Oh, let's spin it a little more, you know. And then I started to kind of put things together, and with all the other symptoms, which weren't drastic in my case, thank goodness. That, you know, maybe this is what it could be, and then it was confirmed, of course, by my son's COVID test. So we had the same symptoms at the same time, so that kind of gave it away. So it was about only 4 days so for me. So
Right,
in terms of
right.
the lack of smell and taste.
You must have been so happy when it came back.
Oh yeah.
I have a very good friend in Stockholm, a sommelier, and she came down with COVID about halfway through last year, and she was telling me she had no idea that she had it, but she was eating, I think it was like Thai noodle dish, and she likes quite a lot of spice in her food, but she couldn't taste the spice, and she kept on putting hot sauce onto it, like it was swimming in hot sauce, and she couldn't get anything at all. And
Yeah.
that was when she realized. But I think she lost her sense of taste and smell for around a month or so. So she was quite concerned, being a sommelier, of course.
Yeah.
Imagine, I mean, I've got this nightmare that I'd have to bluff my way through the next few years if that ever happened to me. But,
Well, the thing is, I'm already very, it's already tragic for sommeliers and all the people in
of
the
course,
in
yes.
the in this in the hospitality business. I mean, it's already just lose your smell on top of
Yeah,
it.
of course, of course, of course. Well, I always like to leave these interviews on a kind of up note. What is the best thing that you have learned throughout these times of pandemic, or some kind of wonderful experience that you had throughout these times?
I guess the resilience of people and finding new ways, I
Yeah,
suppose. Like, and they couldn't go on vacations abroad. Like people take their vacations, and they found their way to be very happy and find new ways of enjoying themselves by taking, and including us, taking long walks and
yeah,
picnics,
yeah. I
picnics,
understand.
that kind of thing. So I think that's a bright spot and something I hope that will stay with us. That we
Yes.
don't kind of give that all up just because things go back to what we call normal. I mean,
And is there
so
one thing that you particularly miss from the times BC before COVID?
going out dining to a good restaurant, yeah, that's
Yes.
I miss
Yeah, yeah.
that. Of course, of course. I love doing that, getting together with friends at a nice restaurant and enjoying all my good chef friends meals, enjoying wine and champagne and things with them. So that's probably one of the things most I miss. I mean, I could do some travel because,
Yeah.
but it was kind of a nice rest. I used to do a lot of travel with the wine
Yeah.
going abroad, so actually it wasn't a bad rest actually, and it was a nice thing to find out we could do things online. You
Yes,
know,
yes, yes. I understand that. I think the
yeah.
thing that one of the things I miss the most is the hairdresser, because mine is getting. I'm just looking today, and it's like this silhouette is getting out of control. So I'm
Yeah,
going to have to try and get my wife to do a little bit of a job on there. Anyway,
yeah.
Robert, on that note, thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully we
Yeah.
can catch up again sometime soon.
It was a pleasure talking to you, and I hope it's in person next time.
Yes, over a glass of wine. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Bye for now.
Bye bye.